Now, transport in Germany has slowed to a crawl due to parallel strikes affecting trains and roads. First, farmers have been blocking major roads and Autobahn ramps in a bitter protest over subsidy cuts. The Farmers Association had called for a week of action to express their anger at the cancellation of subsidies for the sector. Above all, tax breaks for buying agricultural diesel. A partial cancellation of the government's plans did little to stop the protests. A survey suggests that around a fifth of Germans have been affected by them. DW's Matthew Moore is in the eastern city of Dresden, where farmers are blocking the city center. So, Matthew, what's going on there in Dresden?
Sarah, I'm in the historical centre of the old town of Dresden, where thousands of farmers and their supporters have taken over. This morning as we drove in, there was some 2,000 tractors parading in a convoy through the city centre, blaring their horns, and it was like a complete racket. Right now there's thousands of people behind me on Theatre Square in front of the Opera House listening to speeches from farmers' associations, and they're railing against government plans, as you say, to cut diesel subsidies. And this is just one day, this is just one city. Similar protests happening across the country, but there's a lot of focus on Dresden today, and the farmers have been in the city centre, but also blocking roads around the capital, or the city streets, motorway entrances to try to cause maximum disturbance, to raise awareness to their cause and to their frustration, and to ultimately force the government to backtrack on these plans.
Remind us why they are so frustrated, Matthew.
You speak to farmers and anyone, and I've covered these protests now for the last month, and you speak to them and they're just fed up. There's so much frustration because they say the changes that were issued by the government that were brought in, these changes to cut their tax exemptions, were done very hastily and without thought and without consultation. Now, the government did backtrack, but there's a feeling it's simply not good enough, and it taps into a wider frustration that you hear from people in the country, around Germany, that the government is bickering, there's a lot of infighting, and they're not listening to the needs of Germans. And so when you speak to farmers today, they say it's about much more than these tax subsidies. There's a feeling that the government isn't listening. You know, I saw one poster that said they protect insects but not farmers. And I spoke to one person who came by, an older gentleman who came by to show solidarity. He says, if the farmers feel like they're under pressure, then that's only going to hit consumers too. So there is a lot of sympathy for the farmers.
Right-wing groups, which have a very strong presence in Dresden for many years, tried to infiltrate the protests a couple of days ago. What is the situation right now where you are?
Yeah, I mean, the situation where we are today, so on Monday, there was a big turnout of right-wing groups here in the city centre. Today, interestingly, we see some of those right-wing groups, again, they are here, but the police are very much blocking them off from joining the main protest. And one of the speakers behind me said, you know, they want nothing to do with these right-wing groups who are trying to jump on the bandwagon. We've seen that, and we've also seen government ministers warning that they're trying to infiltrate the farmers' protest because they realise that there's a lot of sympathy for farmers in Germany, and they realise this is an opportunity for them to voice and maybe further their own claims, whether that be change of government, overthrowing the government, or simply causing unrest out there in the country. But so far, the farmers' associations here in Dresden have tried to really set a boundary between themselves and the right-wing groups. But you still see them, you see the flags that are flying, and they are trying to kind of somehow join in and jump on the bandwagon.
DW's Matthew Moore in Dresden. Thank you. Well, meanwhile, German commuters are facing massive disruption because of a 3-day strike called by the train drivers' union. That's led the main rail operator Deutsche Bahn to cancel thousands of trains, running only a few emergency services. It's urging people to postpone non-essential travel. The strike is the longest move in a long-running dispute over pay and workers' hours. So Jenny Graham now is at Berlin Central Station. What's the situation there, Jenny? Are any trains running?
Yes, there are some trains running, but not many of them are operated by Deutsche Bahn. At this platform, it's mainly private train companies that are operating services, with trains going out to the neighbouring state of Brandenburg. We did see one intercity express train run by Deutsche Bahn heading to Düsseldorf, and many of the people that were getting on that train told me that they'd been delayed for hours, and not many of them got much information at all. There were a few tourists who told me that they got a notification on an app on their phone, but no real other options for them. Two men that I spoke to visiting from Ireland told me that they were frantically looking at flights to try to get to where they need to go.
And days before the strike, the German railway company Deutsche Bahn had offered for the first time to talk about cutting working hours, one of the main demands of the union. So why did the union still press on with this 3-day strike?
Well, it was really touch and go as to whether this strike action would take place. Deutsche Bahn actually sought to get an injunction from a specialist labour court to stop this industrial action from going ahead. That court said no, and the strikes are happening for the next 3 days. Now, the union, the GDL train drivers union, they want better working conditions, especially for people working a shift pattern. They want a reduction in their hours from 38 to 35 hours per week, but with no reduction in pay. And Deutsche Bahn says that's not possible, not just financially, but because that would lead to gaps in their labour force. Especially with regards to skilled workers. Now, it's well documented that Germany is facing a shortage of skilled workers. The government is actually trying to get people with the skills that the workforce needs to come here from abroad. Now, this strike action, as I said, it started in the early hours of this morning and is set to last all the way through to Friday evening. So not many trains will be coming and going from here or other stations in Germany during that time.
DW's Jenny Graham at Berlin Central Station. Thank you.